Death for missionaries and their families was so certain that when missionaries boarded their ships to leave England, they packed their belongings not in shipping crates, but in caskets. Welcome back. I wrote most episodes with the thought of trying to make you think, to consider a subject and really think it through. But today in episode 49, we're going to talk about something that you don't have to think at all. I just want you to learn something. We're going to be talking about missionary lifespans changing over the centuries. In the first 100 years of missionary expansion from Great Britain, the average lifespan of a missionary was only 6 years. The average was that long only because one missionary managed to survive for 17 years, throwing off the curve. Death for missionaries and their families was so certain that when missionaries boarded their ships to leave England, they packed their belongings not in shipping crates, but in caskets, one for each member of the family. Family and friends would walk them to the dock singing meaningful and favorite hymns, crying, waving goodbye as their ship faded into the distant curvature of the globe, never expecting and barely allowing their minds the hopeful thought of ever seeing their loved ones again. There was no such thing as serve 4 years and come home for one. Most people didn't last the 4 years. Many died on board the ship only several weeks after leaving England, before ever reaching the western coast of sub-Saharan Africa. Africa at that time was called the Dark Continent and the white man's graveyard. This referred to the inevitable death from a host of tropical diseases that were so common in the stagnant air of the jungles. Indigenous people endured such diseases at a significant risk, but foreigners had no natural immunity and were quickly overcome. Missionary societies eventually forbade their missionaries from entering into Africa's interior, forcing them to live only and always along the cooler coastal regions where they could live longer and healthier. David Livingstone gained international acclaim because he left the mandated coast for the interior and made contact with a host of unknown tribal groups that were yet to be reached for Christ. In doing so, he also solved the millennia's international mystery regarding the source of the Nile River. He later died of malaria and dysentery. Now, like many others, I've personally endured malaria, typhoid, Zika, chikungunya, dysentery, influenza, food poisoning, altitude sickness, venomous bites, and a host of other diseases and ailments. Still, due to the advance in medical care, missionaries today can live longer and healthier, being enabled to preach for years beyond those anticipated by our noble predecessors.
Consider that the early missionaries had no anticipated furlough. Due to death or extended travel times, few even made it back home to see their families. This prospective future caused many parents to fear their children would want to become missionaries. That same fear, though now mostly unfounded, still exists in many families. Can you imagine the steadfast conviction and zeal that would lead men and women in that era to become missionaries? Even today, those who serve as missionaries continually leave behind what they know for what they don't know. They deserve your prayers, respect, and support, whether they be foreign missionaries or national missionaries.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode in our Understanding the Great Commission series. If you'd like a copy of the book, it's available in paperback, audiobook, and digital download. Just click the link in the description below. Thank you for watching.